Hello, hola, moi, salut, onjaram. Welcome to my YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you won't miss any of my upcoming videos. Today we have this tutorial how to create a login, sign up, and main page in MERN. Step-by-step tutorial. Here's the overview. I will read it. This project is a full stack web app built with the MERN stack, MongoDB Express, React, Node.js. It includes user authentication, login, registration, main page, secure password hashing with these JWTs, and multiple language support. So we will have English, Finnish, Japanese, and Arabic. Swagger is integrated for API documentation. This will be the landing page. Here we have this URL, localhost port 3000 with this root login. So we will have this login form here, as you can see. And next we should have this page, register. And next we will have this page here, main page. So when we log in, we should see this kind of page from which we can log out. And here is the Swagger to do some API documentations, and I will go through it and you will see how it works. And next, here we have this Postman in which we can also test our APIs. Here is, for example, the token being tested here. And finally, we have this MongoDB. Our user data should look like this one in the MongoDB database. So how we can do this? First, so now we can start with this repo which I have added in my GitHub. So this will be the repo link, and I will add the repo link down below so that you can also access this repo. And we will follow the instructions in this repo and do the same. So here we have this backend and front-end folders, and here we have the README file. So we will go through this README file to do the project. But first you have to read all the instructions step by step so that you can do it. Here we will start. So getting started, clone the repo and navigate into the project. So first we will copy this one and start working. So I have Visual Studio here. We will start with a new window in Visual Studio Code. So I have this one here. We can close this port, come down here, try to drag the terminal and paste this. So we have this URL cloned now, and what we can do next is to find the project inside our own machine. So this will be the project name, as you can see here, is the same. So to do that, you can come to this place, you can click here and find the project and make it open here. So as you can see now, we have this same project structure as here, backend, front-end, README here. Let's continue. So we are here. We can go first and open. Here we will open different terminals here. First, let's open this main terminal. Here how you can do, I just come here, click on this and come to this place. So this is pointing to our own project folder. And next we will go to the backend here, cd backend, and paste it here. As you can see now, we are in the backend folder, and we will initialize the project in the backend. Here we will expand this backend, and I paste this command. And as you can see, we have this JSON file package here, and next we have this part So we paste it here again and we install it. Yes. So as I told you, make sure that you read all the different instructions so that you can understand. And I have added here cd, like here, but if you are in this backend, you don't need to go there again because you are already here. So now we install this Node.js, and next we will go to this one, add this Node.js script to package.json by replacing the one in the scripts section. So we copy here, this is the package.json. It is already opened here, we just find this part to be changed. So as you can see, I didn't select this small comma, and the comma is red right now. I paste what I have copied from here and we save. And next we install this. This is for the Swagger documentation, and we are still in the backend here, and we continue. Also, you can run this one. This will do almost the same as this one by installing all the latest versions. So we can again run it if we want. So it will replace, if there are some deprecated parts, it will replace them. So here we have connect to MongoDB. So we have to create a .env file. This is an environment variable file in which we will have our Mongo URI. This means URI, uniform resource indicator, and we will have our JWT secret key also here. So we will copy this one, and first we have to come to the backend. We create the .env file here this way, .env. And now how you can find this URI in your MongoDB. I have my MongoDB opened here. Here is my cluster 0 and the collections. I'm here. I can go to overview and come to connect here, and here you can click on this one. So this is the URI we are using, but we will add another part here if to create our database name. So we will add this, and we will add this part. Copy this part, come here, paste it, and as you can see, from here to the beginning, I can clean this one and come to this part here and copy this one. So make sure also to change this part with your real password. So I come to this place here and I paste it here. Now it's pasted, so we don't need here double slashes. We just have to stick with one. So let me show you the entire URI so that you can see it clearly. And what we can do now, we just have to get rid of this part. So you replace it with your real password. So it should work. And then we have, next we can close this. Next, what we have here is this JWT secret key, and how we can create this one. Here is how you can generate your JWT secret in VS Code terminal. Run the following command. So here in VS Code we will run this command. If you are on a Windows computer, you can do the same with this command, and if you are on a Mac, you can run this one in a Mac terminal. So we just copy this. We can come here, open a new terminal. So Here we click again, we go to this port. Now we have a second terminal here. So the first terminal here is pointing to the back end, and we have this new terminal. We can paste the command here. So we have this random key generated. Here we come to this place, we replace this. You erase that and you paste this random key here. Or I'm on a Mac, I can use this one. Copy this, go to my terminal here and paste it there. As you can see, I have also this random key. I can use this key here also in this place, so it will do the same. So for now, let's stick with the one we already have here and continue. But what I want to emphasize here is this part. This will be the name of our database. So let's come back to this place. We go to collections again. So if everything works well, we will have a database name here with this my test DB, or my test database should be here when we will start running the backend server. So what we can do now, we can save this file and continue. We follow again the instructions here. Now run the server. We can run it with this npm run dev. Here we copy this port. So as you can see here, the server will start on this localhost port 5001, and you should see the message. This will be displayed if the server starts working correctly. And let's try that. So we come back to this backend. So the terminal here is pointing to the backend. As you can see here, you can clean what we just have installed to make things a little bit cleaner and paste this npm run dev. So it's coming from here, and we check if this is working. As you can see here, server started on port 5001, MongoDB connected, and I will show you where those messages are coming from. So here it seems that the backend is working correctly. Now we can continue with the front end. So for the front end, we also have to go to this front end folder and run this command. I can copy it now, and here we come to this front end here. We select it and we open a new terminal. So as you can see now, this terminal is pointing to the front end, so we don't mix up. Now you can see here is front end, or you can use this cd front end to go there. And I paste the command, and we can wait and see.
A few minutes later.
This is doing the installation with some warnings here, but we can still continue. Here we are still in the front end folder, we don't need that. We just copy this bootstrap command here and come again to this front end. We paste, install the bootstrap. Alright, so we will test this front end with this npm start. We just copy it here and we come here again. We can clean this part again. Now we paste this one. So as you can see, automatically we have this login page. I have set the background color to be black, but if we open this application into a different browser like this Firefox here, the background should look different. So here we have this background color different than this one, because I used to work a lot in this browser. I changed the background color to be black. That's why you can see this. Let's now try to create our first user. So how we can do that? But first, let's start with the backend. Here I will expand this backend folder. So here we will open the main files, and I will try to explain the main parts in this backend folder. So here is the root, and so those are the main files. Let me show you. Here we have this git ignore file, and I have already added the Node modules, this package log.json, this package JSON, and .env files here. So those are files, and this is a folder, and I have added them here because whenever I want to push this project as a repo to my GitHub, those will not be pushed. They will be ignored by Git. Let's start first by opening this Swagger, and we will start by the Swagger. Here how we can open it. We have, for the backend, we have localhost. We still can come here. So you can, for example, copy this part. You can see it's the same as this one, and localhost is the one we are using as the URL here. And next we have to find root to access our Swagger. So let's go here. We have the server file, and we have this part. This is the root we need to access the Swagger. You can come here and copy it and paste it here. Now we have this Swagger for the API documentation, and as you can see, we have those APIs with here post method, again post method. Here is to register a user and to log in. Here is to get. So we will access a protected root. This APIs is for that. But let's first come here and create a new user. So you can press on this arrow pointing downward and come to here, try it out. And here we have this by default. If you want to keep this default data here, you can leave it as it is and try to execute. So we have username as John Doe, email here. We have john@example.com, and password here we have this my password. So we press on this one, and we will see the response here. As you can see, the code is 201 and the response is successful. And there is even a token generated for this user, and we can log this user. For example, we can close this part. We come to this API here for the login, and we go here, try it out. And as you know, we have this email address and password for the newly created user. So we can try to check if we can log in here. Yes, so it's also successful here. As you can see, the code we have 200 and the response is here. We have the token generated, and we can even check here if we have this database name. We can check now if we have this same database name created here, but for that we have to refresh here. You can see here my test DB is the same as this one. So this is the database name here, and now we can open this and see what we have. So we have this John Doe as a username, and here is the email john@example.com, and the password, as you can see here, it is not in a plain text. It means that the password has been hashed, so you cannot read the password by just looking at it here. But if we come back here, you can see the password is this one and the email is this one. So we have used the hashing to hash the password. So we will explain how it has happened. So when we will start explaining the file's content, I will show you how and where this password has been hashed. So here we have, this is just the timestamp created at and updated at, and we just have one user here. What we can do, we will try to access. So first let's copy this token here, and again without those quotation marks, we copied the token and we want to access this protected root. So first let's, for example, I will show you where we have to add the token. Here is the part, but we leave it empty for now. We close, we open this part and try it out. We click on this, we press on this one, execute. So as you can see, no token, authorization denied. So this is the response we have here for 01. And let's try to add some dummy tokens here and see what happens. Authorize, and you can close from here or from here. And again we execute this part again. We press on this. And as you can see here, token is not valid. It knows that we have added tokens, but they are not valid. So what we can do, we log out and we paste the tokens we have copied from this part. So now I paste the tokens I have copied from the login part here. And we press on this one, authorize, and we close here. Again, we execute this part and see if we can access this protected root. Yes, now we have this response. As you can see, the code here is 200 and we have this message. This is a protected root. Welcome here after your token validation. So this means that our token has been validated and we can now access this root. So let's start with Postman. And as you can see here, I have already this. So Postman here, how we can start. Here we have this method post and we have this URL here. This is for the backend, and here we have this API root here, which is coming from our files here, and this is the API authentication, which is part of this one, and we have this register and coming from our roots here, which is here. So we will explain those parts, but now let's just check if this works. If you are, for example, here, what you can do, you have to come and select this part, body, and make sure row is selected here from these radio buttons, because we have binary here, we have others, and here you can also select this one. If it is not JSON, for example, if it is text here, you have to change it to JSON. So we have this username, user2, email, we have this email, user@example.com, password, we just have 1, 2, 3. But because the password will be hashed, we will see how it will look like in the MongoDB here. So let's execute this part. So here it means that we have successfully registered a new user. So we can even come here and refresh this part. As you can see, we have this user with this email, and the password here has been hashed before being saved in the database. So we can again come here with again this post method, and here we have this different API. Because we have login here to log the user, we will need only the email and password to log the user. So again, you have to be in this part and make sure row is selected. Here is JSON and press this send. So again, we copy this token without the quotation marks, and here we will have this get method here. So we will use here get, and this is the API used here to access this protected root. Is the same as here. Those APIs here is the same we are using here in this part. For the register is same here. For login is same here, and here we have this for the protected root, we have the same here. So again, if you are here what you can do, you have to select this authorization, and here if you have, for example, something else selected like API key, you should make sure that you find this bearer token and select it. And then here we have the place where we can paste the token we have just copied from here. But before we paste it, let's try to access the protected root without any tokens here. And see, as you can see, no token, authorization denied. It was the same as here when we have tested. And let's put some tokens here. So we will try to create our own tokens here and see how this postman will react, and we send. Token is not valid, so we have to get rid of this and copy this token here and come to this part and paste it and see. Now we have, this is a protected root. Welcome here after your token validation. So it means now it works. But what if we want to create a user not using Swagger or Postman, but by using this one, the front end? Actually, we have two users we can create. The third user using our front end. We didn't create a user from here. Let's press on this one, and here we can create a new user. How we can do that? We can write the username here as this one. For example, I will just change it to 3. So here will be just the username. Here will be the email. So user3 at example.com, and we can change here the password 123 if we want, or something else, and try to save if we can see the user here. We press on this register. We come here to the database, we refresh, and voila, now we have our user 3, and we have this email, and again the password has been hashed. So we can try to log from this newly created user, and we can also log those users here and see what happens. So first I copy this email and see, now we have password 123, even though, as I told you, the password here has been hashed before being saved to the database. And we press login. And here we have this main page. So here we have this nav bar with this MERN app. This is the name of the application, or if, for example, you want to add a logo for your own application, this is the place for that. And we have two menu items here, 1 and 2, and we have this logout button. And here is the message, welcome to the main page. So we have this change language button. We select on the arrow here, and as you can see, we have English, Finnish, Japanese, Arabic. Let's test what we have here. So here we have Finnish, and let's test Japanese. Wow, here we have Japanese, and let's see what happens with Arabic. All right, so Arabic, it jumps now from right to left. So we will explain this too, because as you know, in Arabic we write from right to left. That's why this is jumping this way. So I have used the Google Translate to translate those parts. It could be correct or not, so it's just for the demo here. And we go back to English, and now we have here from left to right. So we will explain this too. Let's try to log out and see what happens. Okay, and now when we log out, we will just come into this part. How can we access our tokens when we log in? For example, if we need those tokens to access the protected root, how we can do that? As we have seen here, we have copied the token and pasted here, and also in this part we have the tokens here. But in the front end here, we have to double click on this and go to this part, inspect, click on this one, and here we go to application. So we can do the same. We can clean this. This is the local storage is cleaned. We can do the same here, and I just double click on this, inspect, and here we can go to this storage. Here we have the local storage, and we select this part, and we can empty here if there is something. As you can see, there is nothing inside. Okay, now let's try to log a user from our database. Let's check the database here and see. Let's log this user. I just copy the email and we go back here, and I paste the email of this user, user2@example.com, and the password was 123, and we click on this part. Automatically there is a token generated for the authenticated user, and now we have a user logged in. What happens if we log out here? As you can see, it's going empty because it deletes the tokens when the user logs out. We can test the same thing here, and here we have this user2. Oh, let's try to log this user. We have our John Doe here. I just copied the email, and here we can paste, and the password was my password, if I'm correct. So if it is successful, it should generate a token here for this user. So as you can see now, we have this token. If you want to copy the token here, you can just click on the token. From here we can copy the token and even use it somewhere to taste it. So we can come back here in this part and clean the old token here and try to send. Here we have no token. Authorization denied. We try to paste the token copied from here. Yes, boom, this is a protected root. Welcome here. after your token validation. So it means that we can also get the tokens here. What happens if we log out again? So the tokens are gone. And let's test something else. Okay, now let's try to check if we can register the same user with the same credentials using the same username, email, and password. You can come here, for example. We have already this user in our database. We copy the email here. We will use the same username and the same password to see if it will be possible to create the same user over and over again. Let's see what happens. Here we have this email user 3 and password. Boom, you can see here registration failed, please try again. So this means that we only have to create a user once, then we can no longer create the user with the same email. So let's try here with our login to see if we can log with any email here. Let's take this email user 3. We just get rid of 3 there and we put the correct password, which is 123. We don't have this user yet, and let's see what happens. So as you can see here, we cannot log in with wrong credentials. We should have the right credentials here with the correct email, the correct password to log in here. So we try to log in with the correct user and see what happens. All right, now we are inside and we can now start explaining the main parts of those files. For this demo, I was supposed to add more comments so that we can understand what's going on. For example, if you are a new developer and there are some difficulties to understand how things are working, those comments are very useful. Const mongoose equals to this require mongoose. So mongoose is a library for MongoDB used to handle database interactions and define schemas / models in a more structured way. So here we have the function name const connectDB equals to async, and we have used this try and now wait. We are waiting for the connection to the MongoDB. As you know, we have this env file here where we have this Mongo URI. So when the connection is successful, we should display this message, MongoDB connected. This is the message you are seeing here. MongoDB connected is just coming from this part. So it has been console logged here. But if we get an error, this will be the part which should display this error message down here. And next we have this middleware folder and we have this middleware file here. Here again, as you can see, there are many comments to help us understand what's going on. Here we have this module.exports equals to this function with those 3 arguments, request, response, and next. So this is an express middleware function. It will be called for each request to routes that require authentication. The JWT or Java Web Tokens is expected to be in the authorization header in the format bearer. So is what we have here. So we log out. So it means we should have a token here. If we go back to this part, in Postman here we have this authorization and the type here we have this bearer token and we paste our token here. So this is the part handling that. So here we have the second line inside. This code extracts the token by splitting the header value. Again, here we have an if statement. If no token is found, return an error response. So if we don't have a token here, let's get rid of this token and we press send. So we have this message, no token, authorization denied. Where it's coming from is coming from here. No token, authorization denied. It was the same thing here if we try to. So now we have emptied the tokens here and we try to access this protected root again and see what happens. So this is the same message coming from here. So again we have this one. The token is verified using the secret key stored in the process.env.jwt secret. So as you know, we have inside our env file copied this secret key and pasted it there. So here we have this try and request.user equals to this decoded.user, and next, if everything is correct, it proceeds to the protected root, else it will go here. Token is not valid. For example, if we add this dummy tokens, we press authorize, we execute. Token is not valid, is coming from here, is the same thing here too. When we add something here which is not valid and we press send, so we have this message coming from this port. So next we have this models folder, and here we have this file user, and again here we have this Mongoose library. As you can see it here, it's the same library used here. This is the bcrypt.js. So as you can see here, it is a library used to hash passwords securely. And as you have seen here, we have those passwords hashed. So we don't store them as a plain text. So this is the library doing that. And here we have this user schema. So this schema defines the structure of the user document in the MongoDB database. So as you know, we have username, email, and password. This is the timestamp. So it adds the created and updated fields. So here we go to the database. You can take this user, for example, here is the ID generated automatically by the MongoDB. We have username, email, password, and we have this created at, updated at, and it's coming from here. Username, email, password, and this is the timestamp for this part, created and updated. And next we have Mongo's middleware that hashes the password before saving the user. If the password field hasn't been modified, skip the hashing process. In this demo, we didn't add the process how to change the password. But if, for example, you in your own project you have there how to change the password, this is very useful because it will check if the password has been updated. If the password hasn't been updated, if it is still the same password, it will just return next because it has already hashed the password, so you don't need to do it again. And here is the salt. So we have this gen_salt method. So this is random data added to the password to hash it. So it will just make the password more complicated so that no one can try to guess the password. When the password hashing is finished, it will proceed to saving the user. So next, this part we have here, const user equals to mongoose.model. Then we have user here, we have user schema, which is coming from here. So what it does is this comment creates a model named user based on the user schema, allowing for interaction with the user's collection in the database. So as you can see, we have a user here and the collection name is users, and this MongoDB automatically created the collection here, users, based on this user which we have defined in this part. Next we have here, so this is the node modules. It just came when we have initialized the project. So here we have this root folder, and go to authentication. So here we have this express. Here we have pcrypt.js. We have JSON token here. So this is the user coming from this port we have just seen here, because we have exported it to be used somewhere. So we have it imported here. So here we have again this middleware authentication file. We have also seen this here. And here we have this router. So we have added some short descriptions about those parts. You can check it here. So as you can see, this annotation here and down below, we have added them to make this API documentation. So the code includes Swagger annotations for automatically generating API documentations. We have register, login, protected APIs. Then we have this register root, router.post. And as you have seen here, we have post here, we have post, and the same we have used here when we are registering a new user. We have to use this post, because we have this post method here plus this root. This means this is the register API. It's coming from this. And inside here we have const username, email, password. So is what we have here, username, email, password inside this body. So we have it request.body, and we have this try here. What it does, it will try to see if we have the same user with the same email. For example, here, let's see in our database, we have this user2@example.com. So here we again have this user2 because we have created the user2 from here. But what if we try to recreate the same user here with this email? What happens here is this if statement handling. It means if it finds the user with the same email here, what it does, it will return this in the backend. Response to status will be 400. It will be a JSON message. User already exists. Let's try to create this user again, even though we have the same user here, and see if this message will be displayed. As you can see here, user already exists. So in the backend, it will give you this message, so you know the user already exists. It will be the same thing here in this Swagger. For example, let's come back here. We have already this user John_Doe with this John@example.com, and try to recreate that same user and see what happens. Here we have to execute. We have the same data here, and try to execute, and you can see the message here, user already exists. So that's why we have this part. But if the user doesn't exist, then it will create a new user with username, email, password. It will add that user to the backend here database. And here we have, so a token will be generated with the user's ID as the payload. As you can see here, payload equals to this user_ID. As you can see, we have the same, this. And we create that token, and we will give the lifespan for the token. Here is 1 hour. Then after 1 hour, this token will expire, and this catch error if there is an error in the server. And this is the annotation for the login. So for the login here, API documentation for this login part is coming from this one. We have this Swagger annotation. Again, as above, we have this login route here. We will post the login credentials, and we will use the email and password. So what happens if, for example, the email is not correct? So here, if the email is not correct, it should print this one. Let's try to log a user here in Postman. If you try to log in with wrong credentials, like let's add here user 5, we don't have this user 5 in our database. We just have 3 users. The first is John Doe, the second is user 2 and user 3. But here we will try to see what happens with this credential. We have this message, invalid credentials and email. It means that we don't have a user with this email. So the message is coming from here. But if we try to stick with a user with a correct email, but we change the password here, 456789. So we have this user, user2@example.com. We have the user here, but the password is 123. So let's try to see what happens if this message will change. So here, invalid credentials, we have this password. So it's coming from here. It will check and compare here the password you have provided. If it is the same password hashed is 123, but the one provided here is not the one hashed in the MongoDB. So we have again this payload for the tokens to be generated when you log in. Lifespan for the tokens will again be 1 hour. So after 1 hour, the token will expire. Again, if there is a server error. And this part is for the protected root. Again, we come here. And this is the API authentication protected. It's coming from this one. And here is the protected root. Here, as you can see, we have this get method with this protected root. This is the API for this get method here. Here is the middleware. So whenever you succeed to be authenticated with your token, so this message should be displayed. This is a protected root. Welcome here after your token validation. And here again we have exported this part to be used in another file. And next, here we have seen this file and we have just one last file here to go through. Here is the server. This file is the main entry point for the backend server. And as you can see here, we have Express, we have this DB file imported. Here we have course. Here we have this authentication file from the roots folder. And here we have used for generating and serving API documentation. We have those two libraries, Swagger.js doc and Swagger UI Express, to make the documentation here. We have this .env. So what it does, load environment variables from a .env file into process.env. So we have used this one. And here we initialize the Express app with this name app. So it's used here, here, and down below here too, and here. And we call this function, which we have seen here from the beginning, from this file. Can come back here and check it again. So this is the function. We have exported the function and we have called the function here. So it will run whenever we will reach this part. Next, we have this middleware to enable cross-origin resource sharing. So this allows the front end to make HTTP requests to the back end. So whenever we would like to do some requests here, for example, when you want to log in, making sure that through our HTTP request, we can access the backend. And here we have this middleware to parse the request body of the incoming requests as JSON objects. And here we have this define the routes for the API endpoints, API authentication, which you can see here. API authentication is the same as here too, API authentication. Then we use the root name where we want to go, like register, login, protected. Here we have this Swagger setup. So for example, here the title, you can see this MERN authenticate API. It is here, this part is coming from here, and we have this 1.0 also here. We have this description authentication API documentation, which is here. Let's come down here. Here it generates Swagger documentation based on the defined options and the root files. Here we have serve the Swagger documentation to the API-docs root. So this is what we have here in this port, and this is coming from here. Here we have defined the port the app will run on in the backend. We have this port number 5001, which is being used here. If we come here to this Postman, we have the same port used here. So as you can see, this is the message we display. It has been console logged. If the server starts correctly, if we come to this terminal here, you can see this message. Server started on port this 5001, and the message is coming from here. This is the main parts of the backend. And as you know, here we have this git ignore and the env file. Now let's start with the front end. So here we expand this folder and we go to this source, and here we start with components. We can close this backend and continue here. First we have imported all the different components and libraries here. And here we have defined the base URL for the backend API. This is the one URL we have used in the backend. So we have defined it here so that the front end will be connected with the backend. So we have this functional component defined here. So define the state variable and the setter functions. So we have those state variables here: email, password, error, and the setters here. As you can see, set email, set password, set error. And this is the navigation. Again, here we have this handle submit. What happens? First here it prevent default. So it prevents the default form submission behavior. We will get the backend URL, which is here. And we will add this API authentication for login here. So this part will make sure that when we log a user, it will communicate with the backend. If the user exists in the backend, then the user will be logged in. And if it is successful, then it will navigate to the main route. So for example, when we log a user here, let's try to log this user to email, password. Then this route should change if the login is successful. It will navigate here to main. So we will go to the main page. So this is the route for the main page. Let's see here. You can see this changes. So as you can see now, we have this main. We are in the main page. This is what's going on here. But if there is an error, it should display this: login failed, please check your credentials. Let's try to display that message. So here we put 22 here and try to log inside. So you can see here, login failed, please check your credentials. So the message is here and it is displayed here as an alert, and you will see that alert down below, which is here. Error, this is the alert, this is the attribute inside this alert. Here you can see is colored to this color. So next we have this part, define the login form using Bootstrap components. Here you can see we have this login form, email. You can put your email here, password, login. We have this link here to go to register page. And here we have our button login here. As you can see, the button tag here. So whenever we click on this one, it will change this login route to this register route. So it will go to the register page. Let's do that. So as you can see here. So vice versa for this register, when we click on this one, it will bring back to login route. Then we have this next page, register. Next page here is almost the same as login here. The only difference is this part. Here we have username, but in the other side we have just email and password. Here we have username and the name is here, register, and the root is different name than login. But if you understand what is here with those comments, then here you will understand everything is almost the same as you can see here. So when we click on this one, already have an account login here. Already have an account login here. Then it will go to this root. It will change the register root to login. And next we have this main page. And now let's log in and see inside also at the same time. Here also we have many comments. Here we have imported the necessary libraries and components here, and I have added some details here to understand those imports, so you can check it from here. Here we have something new, use translation. So use translation here, hook from React I18 Next for handling language translation, because we have different languages here to change the content of our main page here. These bootstrap components, we have the nav bar, nav container button, drop down button, and we have used the bootstrap to style our application. As you can see, we have a nav bar here with those different components inside, like this name here, the menu items. We have this logout button. And now we have defined this function name here, main page, and it accesses here the logout function from the authentication context. This is this part here. And the second here, this line 21, it provides translation functions T and the current language I18. And let's come down here. Here we have this use effect hook from React, which will help us change the user interface here. When we press on this, you can see now we have from right to left. As you can see right now, is coming from this part. It checks here if I18 and the language equals to Arabic here, it will display the user interface will be right to left, else left to right. That's what this is doing here. And we have this logs out the user and navigate to the login page. When we press on, when this function runs correctly, it will log out and go to this root here. Let's log out. You will see this main will change, as you can see now. Let's go back again and see what's going on inside. Here we have, it changes the language based on the selected option. So from here, whenever we select a language name, it will change based on the language option. So this is the function doing that, and this function is called here. It's also called inside here when we have English, Finnish, Japanese, and Arabic. And here is the name used. Here we have this menu item 1 and 2, item 1 and 2. But as you can see, we have this T here to translate whenever we change the language. Next we have this handle logout. Handle the logout, we have seen that. And this is the welcome message translated and the main text translated. Those two translated whenever we change the language from the drop down change language button here. So we have listed those languages, which you can see here. They are listed in this part. Next we have context folder. This is authentication context.js. Here we have this React library here, and we have also create context and use state. Here we have some details about what's going on inside. It stores the token in local storage to persist the user's login status, as we have seen here in local storage. is still here. We have this token in the local storage. So here we have defined the function name. Inside we have this state variable here. This is the setter for the state variable to update if something happens. Token local storage here. So we have the local storage here. This is the URL from our front end here, and this is the token. So this is what it's doing whenever we log in here. It will go local storage set item. The token will be set and is authenticated set to true, but by default it is set to false here. Here we have again the same process here. When we log out, it should remove the tokens from this part. Let's log out and see. As you know, this is gone because this method is cleaning the tokens there. Let's come back. This is the last part here. It just renders the children components within the authentication context of the provider. This is what we have here. Login, logout, and with authentication. And next we have this one, locals. But before we go to locals here, where we have our JSON files for the different languages, there is a file here, i18.js. This file initializes the i18 next library. We have this library imported here. And again, we import this React i18 next library. It loads the translation files for English, Finnish, Japanese, and Arabic. So those files are inside this folder called locals, which we will see next here. AR for Arabic, EN for English, FI for Finnish, JP for Japanese. So those are the files here imported. And here we initialize i18 next language. Here we have this default. Whenever we come inside, the default should be English. So now we can come to this folder for those files listed here. So let's start with English. So here we have those keys which we have used inside our main page here, like here welcome, main text, and this menu item 1, menu item 2. We have again logout. Those keys are the same for all those files representing those different languages. We just make the messages or the value of those keys different. Like here we have the same keys here which we will use in other JSON files. This is the English part, and if we go to Finnish, you can see the same keys here, and here is translated into Finnish. And we go to Japanese here, again same keys into Japanese. If there is an error of translation, the same here. In Arabic, keys the same. Next we have this index.js. So this application is imported here. We have our main application. Main application here. We will talk about this one. This will be the last file we will explain. And the file is imported here. This is the component. And again, we have those libraries and components imported here. We have create a root and rendered app inside it. That what we did here, and create the root element. Then we have wrapped the app inside here. So this file is the main entry point for the React front-end application. So again, we have imported all the libraries and components. So as you can see, we have this login file, register file, and the main file. They are imported here. Here we have this Bootstrap CSS, provides pre-built styles for a consistent and responsive design. So all those front-end roots are coming from here. So you don't have to mix up with the backend. Here we have this function app, and it will return those components inside here. And as you can see, we have this root path here. When we start the front-end application, it should go to this one. But because we want this login to be our landing page, whenever it goes inside to this one, and it will navigate automatically here to log in. And next, here is the root login when we are in this page. and this is the register root name here. This is the main. When we log inside the main page, we export this function here to be used inside here, and as you can see, it is imported here. So this is the main parts of this application. If you have some difficulties or questions, leave them down below, and don't forget to give a like and subscribe to this channel. See you next time. Bye bye.